Hello, my name is Nifty Gnome and welcome to my live action bookkeeping video. This is video number 4 in the Grand Gate Gardens case study, and this video covers April week number 3, so April 12th to 18th, 2025. Check out the link below to download the documents, request a topic, or find out more about my case study project. Now, on to the bookkeeping. So I'm logged into the QuickBooks Online for the Grand Gate Gardens case study. And over here, I have open the week 3 documents. And we're going to start this week with the bank feed downloads. There's not a lot of activity this week in the bank or the credit card, but there's 1 or 2 transactions, I believe. So CSV files can be uploaded to QBO, but I have them there in case we want to use these case study documents for other bookkeeping software. And the QBO files, what they are is they are the bank download files, as if we were to download a QBO bank download file or directly connect it to the bank. So we're going to upload both of these right now, and we're going to go to transactions, bank transactions, and I'm just going to upload from file. So I can't link because it's a case study. They're not a real bank, but I'm going to upload from file. I'm pulling over, first of all, the Canada Bank. You can see April 12th to 18th. And I'm going to say that this is Canada Bank checking and continue and done. And then I'm also going to upload the Triangle M card as well. Continue. And that is Triangle MC, continue, done. So you can see, as I said, there's only a couple of transactions, not much going on. Now, the way that I do my bookkeeping is I enter the source documents, and again, you can do that manually or with a third party, like often I'll use Dext, and I might be starting that up soon for Grand Gate Gardens. And then after I've entered the transactions from the source document so I can see what's going on, then I'll come back to the bank feed and match what I have, and that will leave what I don't have. And we'll tackle what I call the bank feed lonely singles a little later. So I'm going to go back to my documents here, and we'll back up to there's 2 files with notes and without notes. They're the same set of documents, just the with notes has these little Gnome notes for people who are maybe learning with the source documents for guidance. And this week we only have 3 folders. We have charges and bills and statements, interestingly enough. So let's open up the charges. And there's 3 charges to enter. We're going to start with that Amazon one. So here we have an Amazon invoice. There are 2 things that we can download from Amazon. There's the invoice that really breaks out the taxes and the dates and who it was from. And then also you can download the transaction details that shows how it was paid, when it was paid, so on and so forth. So because this is just the invoice, we don't see how it's paid. And because Sarah has been using her personal credit card, we can't just assume that this was paid with the business credit card. So this will slow us down. We'll have to check the bank feed. Do we see it coming through the credit card bank feed? Do we even have the bank feed connected? Or we'll look at how did she pay for Amazon.ca last time? So when you use a personal payment method as well as the business payment method in operating the business, it really does slow down the bookkeeping way more than you realize. Not only that, because we don't see this come through on the business credit card feed, if Sarah had forgotten to forward this to us, we would have missed entering it altogether. So there's a lot of risks. A great thing though about Sarah is she did tell me that whenever we see a transaction on the business credit card, we can trust that it is business. She keeps that very clean. So that's good. But this still slows down our bookkeeping when she uses her personal credit card, and we will be talking to her about that. So let's just say we've checked the bank feed, we see it's not there. On the business credit card, we've looked and we see last time she paid this with her personal credit card. And then something else to note about this is not every transaction that is charged to you from Amazon has HST, even if it is generally subject to sales tax. And that's, I think, because there's suppliers on Amazon that aren't registered for GST HST. So we can see in this case, there's no GST HST on this. So this is why it's important to see the Amazon transactions. So let's go ahead and put this in. So here we are in QuickBooks. Now this was in the charge folder because the bill date is the same as the paid date, and there's only one bill being paid with the charge, and also there's no check number to track. So those are the three things that I use to decide whether I'm going to put something in as an expense or a bill. And the charges go in with the expense entry screen. So this was Amazon.ca, and it was paid by owners, CC, or bank. And then the payment date was April 12th. So we'll put in April 12th. Like that. And then the reference number, we're just going to copy it and paste it. And it pulled up office expenses because the last time that she purchased something from Amazon.ca, it was office expenses. But let's take a look. It is actually a thermometer, and I believe that would probably be for the greenhouse. So I'm going to put that to supplies. Like that. I don't need to say it was a thermometer. It's 30 bucks. Nobody cares. I only put in the description if it's weird or an asset or an equipment purchase. So the amount was $32.99, and it is actually has no HST on that. So that's what I mentioned before, and that's all we need to do. We're going to go save and new, and let's take a look at what the next one is. So next up, we have this gas receipt that Sarah has submitted to us, and it was paid with the Business MasterCard. Last week, I did a very thorough explainer on how to claim vehicle expenses for different business scenarios. To find the full explanation, go to last week's video, and there's a bookmark in the description that you can jump right to where I talk about how to claim auto expenses. So I've already gone over it, and in this case, because there is a sole prop and sole props claim their vehicle expense as a percentage of how much they've driven their vehicle for business over the year, and we don't know what that percentage is yet, we're going to put this to owner's draw, but a special owner's draw account, and this is on the balance sheet, so we're not claiming any expense, that is specifically only for Sarah's auto expenses, so that we can refer to it at the end of the year. So this is Esso, and it was paid by the triangle, and the date was 4/17, and I'm just going to say MC5252 as the reference number. It's a Gnome thing. You can leave that blank if you want. And then the reference number is something that I physically type in, and the payment account sometimes populates from last time, and this just helps me troubleshoot later if I've made a typo. It's just a Gnome thing. And also sometimes I like looking to see, oh, have I seen this credit card number before? And if I have, I can find it sort of here, and it might just say owner's bank or credit card or whatever. So I don't know, there's little crumbs that I leave I find is helpful for me, but it's not necessary. And then the category is owner's draw, personal auto expenses, and we can even just say gas, and then the amount was, we're putting in the total 39.89. And included in that total is the HST 459, but this is owner's draw, right? We don't know how much of the gas we can claim, and that also means we don't know how much of the HST we can claim because it's the same percentage. So right now, I'm just going to say that this is out of scope, and then later we can do the adjustment, and we can just assume for the gas we'll back out the 13%. Unless the tax is different, you could put that in description, say, purchased on reserve, no HST or something. And we're going to go save and new. And let's take a look at what the next one is. So next we have a Gnome hardware receipt. Now, this looks big, it looks like a bill, but remember, it's going to be entered as the expense screen or as a charge entry because the bill date is the same as the pay date. Only one item is being paid and there's no check number to track. So that's my guideline. So even a little big like a bill, I'm still going to put this in as a receipt or a charge entry using the expense screen. And this is going to be the first time that we're going to do multi-lines. So you can see that from Gnome Hardware, sorry, she got some paper and she got some permanent markers and she also got fertilizer. So we've got office supplies and cost of goods sold. So let's go ahead and put that in now. And we're going to say that this is Gnome Hardware. And how was it paid? Card number 5642. We do have that reference sheet with the last 4 that I always say is good to start with every client or with yourself if you're doing your own bookkeeping. And if we were look to that reference list of last 4, we would see 5642 is the Canada Bank checking. Some bookkeepers I know put the last 4 in the actual GL name. The reason I don't, first of all, is it keeps changing if you get a new bank card, or maybe more than one person has a bank card or a credit card or whatever. So I generally don't do that myself. I have my last 4 cheat sheet. And this date is the 18th. And the reference number actually does have a bill number. I always put that in if there is one. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And let's see, that's right, this is a multi one. We've got copy paper. So this first line of the paper is $29.96. This is where exclusive of tax is important. If this was inclusive, we don't know, like we do, it'd be more typing and tapping. So it's much easier and quicker if we say exclusive when we have multi-line. So we'll say office expense. And we could do 2 things. We could just put in the $29.96, or we can hit add, and you can do math right in here. We can add the $5.50 for the permanent markers, and we're going to do that now. And you can see that by doing it this way, it adds it up for us, and we can say there is HST on that. And now we're going to the next line, and we're going to put in that fertilizer. So that fertilizer is a cost of goods sold. So I'm going to do COGS. And it is the purchases materials cost of goods sold, and that was $253.24 with HST. And let's see, does it come to the amount? $326.23, $326.23, and the HST is $37.53. Quick note, it says GST. This is just because this Home Hardware hasn't changed their register since ye olden days of GST and PST. But since GST and HST both go to CRA, if it says GST, it can go in this HST box. GST, HST, I call it one thing, and PST does not go to CRA. You cannot put it in the GST, HST box. Okay, so we're going to go save and close. That was the last charge of this week. Let's bring this over and see what else we have. So we're going to go to the bills, and there's 3. Okay, let's open up this first one. So here we have a bill from Funky Gifts Wholesale. It's things that Sarah is buying for her gift shop. And again, I did some research to try and find some one-liners to try and make the case study a little bit more interesting. This time, she has written how she has paid it. Now, I know it says May and it's April. I'm an after-the-fact bookkeeper, so I'm generally doing April's bookkeeping in May. And so this is usually when I see those notes. And these notes are super helpful. As an after-the-fact bookkeeper, I need to know how the bills were paid. So that's a bit of you work with your bookkeeper for your specific business situation, or maybe you're using an office manager, or maybe you're doing it yourself. But that's something just to keep in mind, is that when we're doing the bookkeeping, unless it isn't paid, we need to know how it was paid and when and how much. And actually what you can see here is Sarah has said she's paid this May 15th with check number 016, and the 418,266 is not the amount of this bill. So she's paid multiple bills and she hasn't listed out what bills are part of that 418,266. So we just have to hope it matches. It's nicer if we got the check stub that lists them out. That would have been great. But let's go ahead, put this in and hope that it matches. Let's go ahead. So we're going to go new bill. So this is a bill, and it is Funky Gifts Wholesale. We've done one of these before, so it's remembered. You can change that if it bothers you, but I kind of like it. And the date of this bill is the 4/13, and then the bill number is 59742. And it is retail purchases. Something to note, last week when we put in the Funky Gifts Wholesale, for the retail purchases, I did discuss inventory and how this is technically inventory and how you manage it for different types of businesses. So go back to last week's video and look for the Funky Gifts wholesale bill to find out more about inventory. But because of the size of Sarah's business, we're just putting this to retail. She's probably tracking her inventory with another app, hopefully. And so at the end of the year, we'll do an inventory adjustment. So let's go over here, and exclusive of tax is, it's just cut off, 69. 1344.69 plus HST gives us 151950. Perfect. We're going to go save and new. And we're going to refer back to this payment shortly. But in the file here, you can see that there's actually another Funky Gifts wholesale. So let's go ahead and put in this Funky Gifts wholesale, the next one. And again, she says the same thing, paid May 15th. With check 16016 and that amount. So she is putting this all together on that one check. But this is not a bill. We can see that it's a negative amount. So basically they had sent a mug that says me fell English. That's impossible. And the typo on it was me fell English. That's impossible, which it's not funny at all. So she returned them because of the typo. And so this is not a bill. This is actually a credit memo. So let's go ahead and close this. And if we look at new, we've got a couple of options. In suppliers, you can see we have a supplier credit, which is kind of like a bill, but negative. That's what a credit memo is. And then we can see a credit card credit. This is if you get a refund directly onto your credit card. So we're not going to use that. And over here, we see the word credit memo, but it is under the customers column. This is if Sarah herself, the business, is issuing a credit memo to one of her clients. So we're going to stick to the suppliers. We're going to put in the supplier credit. And you can see there's no payment method here because it's kind of like it's a negative bill, right? So this is Funky Gifts Wholesale. And the date of this was the 14th. And then the reference number 59747. And retail. It's important to put the credit memo to the same category that the purchase went to, right? In and out. And we don't have to put the negative amount because by the very nature that it's a credit memo, it's already negative. So 7787 with HST, like this. So the full credit memo is 87.99. Perfect. We're going to go save and close. Now what we can do is we can put in the bill payment as long as it all matches, and it will. We'll do some hard ones later, but this one's nice and easy. We can put the payment in now of these bills and the credit memo. And the last time we put the payment in is we were actually in the bill. So if I go to this bill that we entered here. So the spyglass in this gives us all the recent transactions that we've recently entered. So that's super helpful, as you can see. And if we go to this bill, there's that make payment. We can click make payment. And now you can see all of the bills available for payment and the credit memo. Sometimes people don't see the credit memo. Where'd it go? You got to scroll down a little bit and there it is. But how would we get to this screen? Oh, and it's not showing. I'm going to make it a full screen for a second. There you go. But how would we get to this payment screen if, now I'm going to click this link down here. It takes me back to the bill. If we're not within the bill and want to do a make payment, how do we get to that payment screen? And a lot of people will want to go new and say pay bills. That is a way, we're not going to cover it today, but that pay bills screen, that's mainly used by the office managers or the people running the business who want to do a check run, who want to pay all of the bills for their vendors for the past couple of weeks, on the 1st to the 15th. So if you're doing the bookkeeping in-house live and you want to pay a bunch of vendors all at once and do a check run, this is pay bills. That's what that's used for. We can use it for after the fact bookkeeping. But my question is, how do I get to that payment screen that I'm used to, that I like, where I can say what to pay and how to apply the payment? And again, you can go to the bill and click Pay Now. You can go to the supplier. That's another way. We can go to Expenses, Suppliers, and we can pull up Funky Gifts Wholesale. And we can actually slide over here and mark as paid. So that is another way to get to the bill payment screen. And the last way to get to that individual, just that supplier bill payment screen, is you can go New, Expense. See how it's just an expense? And if we're like, oh, I want to put in that I'm paying Funky Gifts Wholesale for some retail purchases, it's like, oh, wait. Did you know that you actually already have bills? Is this what you're doing? You actually paying a bill? And I can say, yes, I am. And I can add to the bill. Watch, when I hit add, now it doesn't say expense. It says bill payment. We have switched it from an expense entry screen to that bill payment screen. So that's the other way of doing it. So you can see that we can actually only pay one bill, or we can pay more than one bill. And so more than one bill comes to $4,270. We could short pay a bill and scroll down. Here's that credit. Let's select that credit, $87.99, comes to $4,182.66. And if I were to pull up the bill, sure enough, that is how much the payment is for. So you might have to fandangle. Sometimes what happens is it automatically applies a credit. You have to change the amount in the box here. So just things to be aware of. And also, let's just make sure it's going to the right bank. Yep. Canada Bank checking. The payment date was May 15th, I believe. May 15th, check 016. So we're going to go May 15th. Reference number 016 because we want to track that check number, and we're going to go save and close, and that is us entering the bill payment and taking credit. So let's pull this over and see what's next. We've got a blooms, buried blooms, and another thing that I like to note is put some spring into your garden. I like that. I made that up. And also I Googled, and all of these are real flowers. I just Googled the funniest flower names I could find, and all of these are real flowers. And a burlesque dahlia, a raspberry mousse toad lily. They're all real. You can Google them. I had a lot of fun making this. And you can see here it says paid by Business MasterCard on May 10th. So the reason that we're putting this in as a bill and not as a charge is because the payment date is different than the bill date. That's why this is going in as a bill. So let's go ahead and say new bill. And it is buried blooms. And the bill date is April 17th. And then the bill number is 598874. So we're going to put in the category. And this is purchases and materials. And the amount is, now it doesn't subtotal it for us. So I'm just going to flip this over to inclusive to make my life easier. See how that's helpful. And we're going to say there's HST in that our amount and 19926. Perfect. And what did she say here? She noticed that it's paid by the Business MasterCard. If we see the payment notes, put the payment in so we don't have to go figuring it out later. So notice, again, like I said, there's no payment option here until I hit save. And then, ta-da, there's the make payment option. I'm going to click make payment. And she doesn't specify she's paying more than one, but we've only seen the one bill and she didn't put the total amount. So, and the reason I put this one in here is I just wanted people to know that you can pay bills with the credit card. So, and then the payment date was May 10th, like this. And I'm just going to get rid of the reference number because there's no reference number with a credit card payment and we're paying the full amount of the bill. There's nothing else to click off or do. So I'm going to go save and close. So let's pull over the folder and that's it. That's it for our bills. And so the next thing is the statements, and we'll open that up. And there's one statement. and this is the triangle M card statement. And you can see that it started off at 0. And Sarah has told us that even though this is in her personal name, she's actually going to be using this credit card only for business. And she's a sole prop, so she can have a personal credit card in her name that she only uses for business that we are now going to reconcile, because she told me she only uses it for business. So very important that if you're running a business, have a credit card that you only use for business. Before we reconcile though, let's go ahead and clear the bank feed. So we're going to go to bank transactions. And we'll start with the credit card. I usually start with the credit card feed. This is because sometimes there's like 2 or 3 credit cards, and sometimes the business owner will pay like $1,000 to each of those credit cards. And so it's much easier to accept a payment from the bank than to see the banks paying a random credit card and not knowing which credit card it was paying. So that's why I clear the credit card feed first. And there's only one transaction, and we have it in. It is April 17th, April 17th. That's the thing, like when I go click, I don't want to go click happy, right? So the first thing I look at is date. And this Esso is the one I entered, and this Esso is what's coming from the bank. So date is right, Esso is right, and of course the amount is right or it wouldn't find the match. Go ahead and hit match. And then next we're going to go to the Canada Bank checking. Same thing, I'm looking at the date, April 18th, April 18th. I say it's Gnome hardware in here. And the description says Gnome hardware from the bank. So we're going to go ahead and match. So now that we have the bank feed cleared for the week, now we can go ahead and reconcile. So I'll pull this over and you can go transactions, reconcile. But as I noticed before, this is the same as up here. So here's reconcile. It's the same screen. And we're going to go to reconcile the triangle. And the beginning balance is 0. We like to make sure that that matches. Yep, beginning balance is 0. Statement ending balance, you can see it's right here, 485.69. And the ending date is, it says statement date April 16th, and for the period to April 16th. So we'll go ahead and put April 16th in there, and we will start reconciling. So this is the beauty of that credit card feed. We've done all of that checking already. We've already looked to see that this is cleared, and we've matched and married it to the QuickBooks transaction. So QuickBooks has already checked these off as cleared for us. And we can click in and take a look. The date is the date that we put it into the QuickBooks as the transaction date. And the clear date is the date from the bank feeds that we married the transaction to. We could click on this and we could go edit. And if we did, we'd find that transaction, and there is that bank match right here, what I call the bank info line that the QuickBooks transaction is married to. So those are my words. This is the QuickBooks transaction. This is the bank feed info line, and they have been married. And I say they're married to their soulmate because they're correctly married, but sometimes when things are married to not the right transaction, I say they need a divorce. They're not married to their soulmate. So we're going back in here, and again, just that's the beauty of the reconciling when you're using a bank feed is we're done. You can see that there's the 4 transactions: Gnome, 2 Canadian Tires, and a Vistaprint. Gnome, Vistaprint, 2 Canadian Tires. Finish now. We're done. Now it does ask if we want to attach the statement, and if the statement isn't getting downloaded in from the bank, I like to do that. I find that it's very useful to keep everything sort of in the same place. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to make this a little bigger, and I'm going to attach, and I'm going to drag it over like this, and done. Now we feel done, but I'm going to pull over this statement, and I'm going to show you that actually there's an additional note here that Sarah added. She noted that she paid this with online banking with the business bank account on May 15th for $1,000, an $1,000 payment. And as I noted before, if you see any payment notes on the documents that you receive, put that information in as you see it. It will help you in the long run. So let's go ahead and put in this credit card payment. Now there are 3 different ways to put in a credit card payment, many roads to Rome. So basically with a credit card payment, what you're doing is you're transferring money from your bank to your credit card, okay? And so QuickBooks has given us the option here to pay down credit card. Now I like the pay down credit card option. That's because we can say that we're paying the Triangle MasterCard, and we can even say that the Triangle M card is the name of the supplier that we're paying, that we want to see, that we're going to see on that bank feed. So I appreciate that option. And we can also say that we're paying $1,000, and I see it was May 15th that we made that payment, and we use the Canada Bank checking to make this payment. If you say I made this payment with a check, then you can put a check number, or you can actually print the check if you're doing live bookkeeping. So this is one of the reasons that QuickBooks added this third option, the most recent option for pay down credit card, because so that, you know, people are looking, I paid the credit card, how do I enter that in? So they don't have as many calls now because they have an option, pay down credit card, but also so that you can print the check if you are paying by check, if you're doing live at the time bookkeeping. So that's the first option, and the one I like. I'm going to say save and close. Now we don't have the May 15th bank feed yet, and so when you see the May 15th bank feed, it'll have that $1,000 payment for us to match to. But what I'm going to do when I get to the May 15th live feed, I'm going to delete that payment, and I'm going to show what it looks like, how to add it from the bank feed. And again, the bank feed shortcut way does give you this pay down credit card option, just with the shortcut way, not the big screen way. And I did mention there are 2 other ways to add that entry if you so desire. So one of the ways is you could have added it as a transfer. So you could say transfer funds from the Canada Bank checking to the Triangle MasterCard. So that is an option. When you do it this way, and then you'd put the amount and you'd put the date, when you do it this way, you can't actually say the name of the supplier, no big deal, but you can't put a check number in, and if you're tracking check numbers, that's kind of annoying. So that's one of the drawbacks from using the transfer. I actually very rarely use transfers unless I'm literally know that I'm transferring money from one bank account to another or credit card. Because what if the entry, like this is what I've seen some people do, is they'll see that the shareholder or the owner is like paying for like their Netflix or something like that. And they'll just say, oh, transfer to owner's draw contributions. But then find out later, oh, wait, oh, that's for the Netflix for the TV in your office, for your waiting room, for your clients who are waiting for you, and that's in your like public office. Oh, well, I didn't realize that. And so then what they will have to go back and fix this. So you try to come back and fix this to make it like a Netflix expense instead. And you can't choose an expense in a transfer. You can't choose the HST in a transfer. You cannot add a supplier name in a transfer. And so you have to delete it and then enter it as an expense. And that alone is a bit of a pain in the butt, but if you've already reconciled, there's even more pain in the butts that you have to deal with, and we'll talk about that later. So that's why I very rarely use transfers unless it's a legit transfer from a bank to another bank or credit card. And so the third way to enter a credit card payment that would also work is you can enter an expense. So an expense entry, we can say that this is the Triangle M card. So this is the bank that's going down. We're paying from the bank. And what are we paying? We're paying the Triangle M card. So this, and you got to make sure that it's out of scope, obviously. And then there's the 1,000, and you'd put the date. And this is just another way to put that in. Completely acceptable, does exactly the same thing as the credit card payment. I mean, of course, we'd maybe, if you want to print it a check, you could enter it as a check payment, which is very much like an expense entry. So yeah, so there are many roads to Rome. So, but the main one is the one that I showed you first of all, which is the obvious one. And again, I'm going to actually delete that when we go to do the bank feed in May, just to show you sort of what it looks like if that wasn't put in. But my rule of thumb is if there's a note that tells me something that happened, put in the thing that happened. It will save me time later. So that is it. We have put in the April week 3 transactions, and we've reconciled the statement. We've cleared the bank. Right now, I'm just going to go over to the reports. If you're following along with me, you can go ahead and do this as well, and just make sure that your week over week sort of looks the same as mine. And we also will talk about when the month ends, how we can do a month over month analysis. But right now, this is just, I'm switching to Classic View because I'm quicker in Classic View, and I'm going to say just the weeks we've done so far, March 23rd to April 18th. And let's display the columns by weeks and hit Run Report. So here is the entries that we have done in the case study so far. You can use this to check your work. And I'm actually, like I said, at the end of the month, I'm going to show what I do with the month over month analysis. And also let's go ahead and look at the balance sheet if you're checking your work. So we're going to go to Balance Sheet and Classic View. I'll probably start using that new view soon. I will, but I'm so much quicker this way. We'll go to April 18th, and as of the end of this week, these are the balances in the balance sheet. So you can go ahead and check this against yours and take a look to see if there's any differences. And if you do have any differences and you have any questions, feel free to put it in the comments and ask me about it. So I hope you found this information helpful in the building growth and success of the business that you are working in and on. If you found this video useful, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'm also on Instagram at BeThatBusiness, and I'm at Nifty Gnome on Twitch and TikTok. And you can find resources and courses about running a Canadian business on my website, naomiwilkins.ca. I love making business make sense. The video today was recorded in beautiful Newcastle, Ontario. Thanks so much for watching, and get out there and be that business that thrives.